Okay, so it's been a little while since I've posted a video. I've just been really caught up with working on the other channel, and I have been away in Melbourne for a couple of days, so I haven't really seen anything new, but we do have new Game of Thrones, and that is very, very exciting. So I'm going to be reviewing all 6 episodes this season, hopefully a lot earlier than this video has gone up. Should be straight after each episode is aired following this one, which I'm very excited about. Hopefully we'll have Jay in a couple of those videos, as he does have some time off coming up. Before I dive into talking about the season 8 premiere, I do want to say that I have a love letter to Game of Thrones up on my other channel, Loverboy Media, which you can check out through the link in the description and in the pinned comments. It'll also pop up on the end screen after this video, so definitely check that out. It is the best video I've ever made on YouTube, so it is 100% worth your time. All right, let's do this. Just like our old Game of Thrones videos on this channel, I will be doing this totally improvised, so do forgive me if I forget anything. I'm going to try to be as comprehensive as possible. Also know that I am focusing purely on the episode we have just seen. I do not watch the trailers for what is coming next. I think it's ridiculous that they even have those, because you're watching it anyway. Why even bother showing what's coming up? So I'm just going to be talking about what's happening in this episode. I've got a rough idea of what's going to happen next, but I haven't actually physically watched the thing that tells you, oh, this is what is happening next time. So forgive me if any of my judgments pertaining what is coming up are inaccurate. I'm basically just going to try to focus on what we've actually seen. Now, coming into season 8, I was obviously excited. I mean, who isn't going to be excited? I did have a lot of issues with season 7, but after working on this video on my other channel for so long, I've kind of really come round on a lot of the things that happened in that season that I didn't really agree with. Of course, there's the truncated storytelling and the kind of fast travel movement and that kind of thing that didn't necessarily make sense. There are a lot of logical flaws in season 7 that previous seasons haven't necessarily had, though at the end of the day, we're not really getting filmmaking as kind of bold and huge in TV as Game of Thrones, and so there's still a lot of enjoyment for me out of that. And I'm aware that going into season 8, a lot of those issues with pacing are probably going to stick around. Though, if I'm being honest, and I want to be honest with you guys, I don't really care. My connection to the show is so strong at this stage that those things I go, oh, maybe they could have done that better. But I don't have that fan thing that people do nowadays where they're like, oh, fuck this, they fucked up. I just don't really care about that kind of thing anymore. And so I think that's definitely going to change the way I review this season, because at the end of the day, I feel like the show's kind of earned being able to do whatever it's doing now. Most of the characters have more or less completed their arcs or their primary arcs, and so a lot of the very intricate storytelling of the previous seasons is more or less gone. And yeah, we are getting blockbuster storytelling because this is the blockbuster conclusion to a series that did all the work to get it to that point. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming at from that perspective. I just more or less with this premiere enjoyed everything I saw. Okay, there were certain things. I'm going to just start with this. The dragon riding sequence, I think, could have been handled less comedically, but the fact that it was at the same time doesn't really bother me, Look at it this way. I just don't feel like the show owes me anything. I feel like the show just does what it's doing now. It knows how it's going to end itself, and I'm just here for the ride, right? I don't feel like I'm owed, oh, we need to see this, we need to see that. The stuff I'd love to see. I'd love to see Clegane Bowl. I'd love to see the Battle of the Trident. But at the end of the day, if the show doesn't want to do that, I'm not going to feel like I've been robbed, We've had such a great ride. Who cares? Let's take what we get. But yeah, the dragon riding sequence, obviously we know Jon's pretty slow to engage in stuff. And at that point, why am I able to ride dragons? And, I feel like you'd have that kind of thought process. But I think that it was great that they chose to reestablish Jon and Daenerys' relationship. Something that I'd always bought. They have fantastic chemistry. But it was, I think that scene is necessary in a lot of ways to, before the bombshell that the show is dropping later in the episode with Jon finding out his lineage. I think it's important to reestablish just how much these characters care about each other, and that was the right way to do that scene. I think, at the end of the day, it's not the way I would have done it, but what they chose to do really worked for me. I think in general, having David Nutter come back for his first episode since season 5, he's one of my favorite directors on the show, followed by Miguel Sapochnik, who is directing 2 episodes later this season. Very excited about that. But I think David Nutter has the kind of style that works the best for the show. You know, he's just so character focused. He's not bold and crazy and doing all this super complex stuff, but he just knows how to frame a shot. You know, there's this fantastic moment of Jon, you know, in denial of his lineage. And, you know, in the background, it's a profile shot. And in the background, we've got Lyanna's statue in the Stark crypt. Just little things like that that kind of up your connection to a scene, that he just knows what he's looking for. He knows how to frame his characters. He knows how to mine the most out of the emotions. And as an episode that was all about reunions, I think he did a really, really great job, considering it's only a 53-minute episode, I believe, quite short, to kind of mine the most out of 2 3-minute scenes between these characters that haven't seen each other in a long time. Now, of course, Daenerys arriving in Winterfell, she was never going to be met with open arms, but I do really like the fact that the North remembers that they just crowned their king, and now their king has submitted to someone else. I think there's a lot of this episode was about setting up the season, or in a way, I feel like a lot of the setup has already been done, but re-establishing where everyone's at. It needed to be an episode about all these people coming together and us coming to an understanding of how they feel about each other now after all this time apart. You know, you've got this reunion with Tyrion and Sansa has changed so much. I know a lot of people really don't like her, but after this episode, if you do not respect what Sophie Turner is doing, then I don't know, she was the champion of this episode for me. You know, she hasn't seen the White Walkers. She has different priorities. You know, she's still thinking about Cersei and about the Iron Throne. I think she's got an understanding that Jon knows that there's this threat out there and she believes him and she wants to be there for him. But understandably, her priorities are very different. And so she's still very much playing the Game of Thrones. And it was very interesting seeing how her perspective on things was operating when so many characters are just focused on this threat coming from the North with the Night King. But her now being able to completely match wits with Tyrion is a fantastic kind of statement to make of her character arc, just how far she's come, that she can outmaneuver Tyrion. I think that that's really, really excellent, and I can't wait to see where she goes this season, as well as Arya as well, who's someone who I felt has kind of floated somewhat. She makes a lot of big moves in the game, but I also feel like she, you know, I don't know what her place is in this going forward. So I think seeing her reunite with Jon was very essential for her to, you know, I feel like she's going to find a stronger place in this story going forward. And it was a really beautiful scene seeing the two characters that I think had always understood each other in the Stark family. I think Arya was always someone who was misunderstood, and Jon was someone who no one ever really took any time to try to understand, and yet they always understood each other. And seeing them come together after so much time apart and still having that connection was really quite beautiful. Arya was, of course, also reunited with Gendry, which was a nice little moment considering that Gendry's one of the few characters that kind of feels like he's stayed more or less the same throughout the story. He's just one of those nice guys that's managed to get by. But Arya has changed so much, and so I think it was really interesting for him seeing how far she had come. But the reunion that I think I almost enjoyed the most in this episode was the Hound and Arya. Of course, the Hound was someone who was on Arya's kill list, and she basically left him at the bottom of that hill, that cliff, after he fought Brienne of Tarth, and kind of left him knowing that he had died. And so seeing that, you know, he's a hard guy to kill, but then having that kind of mutual respect, I really, really like that. The Hound has for a long time been one of my favorite characters, and I think them both having this kind of respect to see that they both survive. They're both survivors who do what needs to be done to cling on to their life. And I think that moment shared between them was definitely one of the episode's highlights. Now, of course, a lot of this episode was centered on Samwell Tarly, who really, aside from the fact that, they made him trip over at one scene, I'm like, I think we're a little bit past Sam being the bumbling idiot, considering he's such an intelligent character, such an emotionally present character. Maybe we should stop treating him like that. But that aside, the way that John Bradley kind of handled the scene where Daenerys told him that she'd burned basically his father, who obviously Sam didn't like a whole lot, but his brother, who he did care dearly about, the fact that she'd burned them alive, he handled that really, really well. And I like the fact that it was Sam that told Jon that his parents are Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen. I like that it came from him and not Bran, because let's be honest, Bran's a bit of a creep. I love Bran, fantastic character, and I'm really excited, I think, to see where he goes this season, considering he always seems to be 500 steps ahead of everyone. But I'm really excited to see where he goes. But I like the fact it came from Sam, and I like the fact that Jon just seems to be going... He's such a humble character, and a character that doesn't ask for much. And he keeps getting more and more thrust upon him. And then to find out that basically, I don't even know if it clicked for him, but he's pretty much the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. That's a lot to take in. And I think what was almost most interesting about that scene was a switch that I don't think everyone has necessarily picked up on. It's the switch that maybe Daenerys isn't the hero of this story. I think she's had a very fantastic arc as growing as a person, becoming more and more powerful, more and more empowered. But maybe she isn't the hero of this story. Maybe she does have a lot of the traits of her father, the Mad King. And so it was very interesting seeing how that conflict is going to develop, considering Jon is the good king, the honorable king, the person who would probably do right by everyone. And yet Daenerys has never really suffered a loss in the way that, she's just had this campaign that just seems to have gone from strength to strength, even when it has had its low points. She's just blasted out of all of them stronger than before. And so it becomes a very interesting reality of maybe it's not Daenerys that sits on the throne. Maybe they won't be together. Who sits on the throne to me is not really important, because the White Walkers are coming. And I'm very interested to see in an episode like this, where pretty much no character we already knew died, we're going to have a lot of people drop dead by the end of it. Before I move on to that, I do want to say that obviously we finally got Theon rescuing Yara. I'm glad that that's happened. I'm glad that they kind of seem to have forgiven each other. Theon really had a fantastic kind of moment in the finale of the last season, and seeing him kind of continue on that path towards strength and regaining, I think, all that he lost is very exciting to me, and seeing how that goes in the future. Even though I'm not really too sure what is happening with the Greyjoys. I don't really know how far they can progress. Euron is going to die a horrible death, I can already tell. He's very entertaining to watch, and I think, obviously, maybe the actual MVP of this, I guess, of the whole show, I'll give this episode to Sophie Turner as Sansa Stark. But Lena Headey as Cersei Lannister, she's just phenomenal. She truly is a magnificent actress. That moment, just as, Euron leaves and he goes, I'm going to put a baby in you, or whatever creepy thing he said, and her have that little, it was 2 seconds. It was literally 2 seconds, and she just gave all of that externally, that emotion of everything she's going through right now. She's still got, she's lost all of her kids. She's lost the person she loves the most in the world. He's left her. She has no one left. And I think that moment was really, really quite powerful. And of course, the final moment with the Night King. Now, look, I do want to say something quickly about the Night King. We have 5 episodes, probably less, to get some form of character from him. Now, if he's going to be the quiet guy that is just full menace the whole time, that's fine, I think. I almost like the idea of having this unstoppable army that, the motive is never quite explained. They just consume everything, destroy everything. I like that. I do get this sneaking suspicion they're going to try to characterize him, and it might be too little too late. So I don't know how that's going to go. I like him as a threat. I think there's a very exciting things to come in the future episodes, in the war to come. But right now, as a looming threat, I don't know about him as a figurehead just yet. The White Walkers haven't really done it for me since season 5 as a threat. So I am interested to see how that goes. You know, that whole burning the kid with a symbol made of limbs. You know, I like it, but I feel like we've got to, you know, we're going to get a move on from this point. Obviously, this episode was quite static. I understand that people might have problems with that. I think it needed to be that way. I think we needed to remind ourselves of where we were at, of what everyone's relationship was with each other, and then move on from there. But I am very excited to start getting some of that forward momentum and seeing where things go from here. Obviously, the episode ended with my favorite character, I think, Jaime, turning up at Winterfell and Bran giving him the old creepy eyes because, of course, look, it'd be interesting. I've always thought that Jaime is going to be the one that kills Cersei. It's going to be a Mad King situation 2.0, and he's going to have to kill Cersei. I think that is the perfect person to kill her if she does die. But I also think it's very likely that he could have to pay for his crimes, and that's as far as he's progressed. So we will see how that pans out. But I do hope for the best for Jaime because Jaime's arc has been my favorite, I think, overall. Seeing how far he's come a person moving from kind of arrogance to humility and from, you know, this self-centered nature to actually caring about what happens to other people and caring about the world. So I feel like he's changed enough and he's paid his dues. And it's interesting to see where he goes. And it would be a shame to think that Bronn was the one to kill him or Tyrion. But it's, you know, it's Game of Thrones. It's quite likely that could be the case. So we'll see how that goes. So those are my thoughts on the Season 8 premiere of Game of Thrones. Don't forget to check out my video on Loverboy Media on why I love Game of Thrones. I think if you guys enjoy the show, you're going to enjoy that video and get something out of it. So be sure to check it out through the link in the description and in the pinned comment. Of course, if you have not yet subscribed to Breaking Banter, be sure to do so. I will be reviewing every episode this season. Very excited about that. You can follow me on Twitter at Loverboy Media and on Instagram at Breaking Banter. And if you do really want to help support this channel, you can support us on Patreon. Thank you so much to anyone doing that already. You guys are just amazing. Everyone who watches these videos is amazing, and I will see you guys all in the next one.